What's up, electric all-wheel? Hot rainy day here in Florida. We have in front of us the Velotric Discover 1 48 volt 500 watt rear hub motor and some amp hour rating on the battery, which I'm gonna need to check out now. 13.8 amp hours. You can probably guess what we're getting ready to do, but sadly I'm not going to be able to use the plug and play method. For this one, we are going to link up the 20 amp dual battery discharge balance kit from Electric All Wheel, and we will also put some links for solder steel connectors, heat gun, and if you like, the tools that I'm going to use as well to get this done. Not necessarily plug and play, but should be relatively straightforward. I've already taken this apart. I know what's going on, and the reality is I'm going to have to run a fish line and pull it through, but I think I've got a method, and if you follow me through this, you're comfortable doing what we're doing, then you will be pleasantly pleased with the end result. If you haven't already and you're in the Tampa Bay area, check out E-Bikes of Tampa Bay, Florida. It is a Facebook group. Get in there, make an event, and go for a ride with your fellow e-bike riders in the Tampa Bay area. We have a lot of new members that are sharing their bikes as well, and everybody's getting ready to go out to ride. It is coming up on snowbird season, which means there's going to be a lot of people, and there are going to be a ton of e-bikes out there, and we will get in there and go for some rides, but we implore you to do that yourself. Check it out. We are going to add the typical 48 volt 10 amp hour battery that you see us with, the small one in the bag. Likely going to put it in right here, but first things first, we need to get this wiring harness taken out. Here's what we know. The connector plate is here. The pins on the battery are 4, but we think they are decoy pins, and they're only set for the pins so that you have to come back to Velotric for that stuff. We've actually pulled the adapter, seen the 2 wires, so we're just going to get in there and cut. Fortunately, we own this bike, so you guys can check out what we do and see if it's something that you want to do for yourself after you get out of your warranty. Other than that, love the bike. The bike is great, comfortable ride. High step frame, so not really conducive for those that want to get an easy on and off for the bike. It is a kick your leg over scenario, but after that, I'm pleased with what they have to offer. Display is good, the ride is good, and the width of the tires is good given their narrow value. Right about now in the industry, we're seeing something where the tire trend is the fat tire, and 3 inches is about the marker for a bike that you want to use on public transportation. So public transportation racks typically are 3 inches and smaller in width, so this bike fits the bill. Rugged enough with the crossbar, can pretty much put a ton of weight on it. You've got the rack on it. The previous owner put on the new handlebars. It's got a nice throttle, and it has hydraulic brakes, so we are in it to win. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video, but I hope you enjoy it. Check it out. Stick around to the end of the video where I will run the calculations with the mica toll constant for this 48 volt system, and it will give you an estimate on the range and show you how to do those calculations so you can know for yourself what size battery that you want to buy. Give us a like and subscribe. YouTube is our primary, and that's the way you guys can show us some love. We really appreciate it. Here we go. Right now I'm going to run Discovery just to see what I can see under this plate. So I just took out that screw there, and I'm going to take this one out and then this one out. Well, right now I know that I have plenty of room for a 20 amp balancer in between here. I've also got the cable that needs to run this way, so I'm going to have to fish line it all the way up the body, but that was worthwhile. So we know that we're going to be able to rest the balancer internally. We'll likely do a cut in here at the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and take this plate off. All right, for this controller, we know that there are some screws underneath, but what I'm going to do is just go ahead and get access to my stuff here. So this is the pin connector, and you can see that it's actually 4-pin, but that's not necessarily telling the whole truth. Don't lose your screws. So now we got to take out the 2 lock screws over here for the key lock. Don't forget your other screw. See, this is very simple. It comes right out. There are these 2 holes. This fits in the side, and then it fits in the casing right there on the back side. But you need it out so you can wedge out your plate. So now I've got some string that's longer than the down tube. I'm going to go ahead and get it on this so I can fish it through. And then I like to bring it to a point so that when it's going through the down tube, if there's any kind of obstruction, it helps to glide it past. And I know that the brake cables are in there. Now what I'm after is to fish this line back through the body. As you can see, on the back side of this, it's just red and black, which will work quite well with what we want it for. We are going to leave this extension in here, so this will run all the way down. And then what we're planning to do is make a connection with an XT60. So we'll cut off the end here and then put an XT60 on this end and then run it out. What I may do actually is just make an extension for the cable first so that I know that I have good clearance when I'm going in, and I'll just heat shrink it, bring it out this end to make it convenient, and then we'll put all the cabling back in. looks like this may be our winner. So it looks like I've got it. What I'm going to do is mock this up. Out to the controller is this input for connection. So I'm just going to mock. So I will cut right here. I'll use this end on this cable. And then for this one, I'm going to cut this cable right about here. I'll cut this cable right about here. And then I'll join them up. And then I'll take this and it will go from this cut end all the way around to the plate. And what will happen is, because this will be on the end of this longer cable, it will actually plug in right here to the XT60 for one of the batteries, which is what we want. This is my cable end. Heat gun. You'll actually see the solder. Ruin my scissors. I am not going to be able to slip this over easily at all, so I'm not even going to try. There we go. Now this is what's going to come down, and it will plug in as a battery here on the balancer. This one will be output to the controller, and then second battery cable will come off of this one. So this will plug right into the controller as it was. So now that I have my new cable harness for the battery, for the factory battery, I'm gonna tie this end off and then fish it through the body. Now I'm gonna try and make sure and hold it to the outer edge here. There's a lot of obstruction with the cabling, so I just wanted to fish on the outside so it's a clear path down the tube on this side. So here we go. Perfect. So now I need to get my key lock back in there. We know that the hole is just out there, and then the key is on this side. So I'm actually gonna use the key to help. So that'll help me guide the plate. There it is. There's that. I'm just bleeding all over my bike. I think I cut my hand right in there. Anyway, show goes on. And here is our newly made adapter. Which we will now connect to the controller. Make sure and line up the arrows. Here is our balancer. So we know this one is out to controller. So that's here. 2 batteries, so here's one. And then we put our extra battery here. Let's see about getting the extension cable through here and then draw it out in the box. This is the end that we want to connect, so make sure you put it through correctly because it's a tight space in here. All right, there we go. So we have our line here that is now in this space. The line actually represents the second battery. All right, I have my extension hooked up as my second battery to the balancer. I'm gonna go ahead and get that in there, and what I'm also gonna do is go ahead and close this thing up. There's the screw hole for the plate, and then the other two are surfaced here. This one goes here. And these screws go here. All right, here's the 48-volt battery that we typically use. You are not restricted to this battery. So I'm thinking this placement. Let's feed that there. Go ahead and give that a plug in, and then we'll test it out. We can feed some of this back into the bag in a moment, or better yet, I'll just go ahead and strap it with the Velcro strap. There we go. So we have a connection. Now let's test for operation. Perfect. And we know that works. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and unplug the second battery. plug in the factory battery, and then do it over again. All right, we know that the second battery is unplugged, factory battery is in. Perfect. Woo! It's still hot here in Florida, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let the fall air fool you. It is hot and humid as it goes. This bike was a little bit more difficult, not necessarily plug and play. I did bleed for this bike. Right in here in the casing, when I put my hands in there, they're too big for some of the slots. I should have done some pinchers or used my needle nose, but I tried to do it with my hands, and I got a little cut on the knuckle. So I apologize for that throughout the video, but let's get to the business. The mica toll constant says that it is 25 watt hours per mile. So for the factory setup with a 14 amp hour battery, we're going 14 times 48 equals 672. Divide that by 25 and you get 26.88 miles from the factory setup at 20 miles per hour throttle only. Now, 14 plus 10 with the addition of the second battery, the 48 volt 10 amp hour battery we have here on the crossbar, we're gonna go 14 plus 10 is 24 times 48 equals 1,152. Divide that by 25, you get 46 miles on this dual battery setup at 20 miles per hour throttle only. Now that is quite a considerable range change, and that's going to get you where you want to go, especially you commuters that are using this thing hot and heavy every day. We've seen a lot of this with these bikes where the companies are trying to get their own connectors in on their bikes so that it deters you from actually utilizing anything like a common XT60 bullet connectors, any of those that you see across the board for a lot of power connection, especially batteries at the 48 volt range. We understand it, we just think it's a big pain, and we're really glad that it worked out. You don't actually have to pull the controller. We do have a picture of the controller and I can show you the specs on that, so check that out. And remember, you are not beholden to this battery. You can get any 48 volt battery you want. Just make sure you have the, your BMS is hitting around 20 amps, and that's for this bike. Typically these are 25 or 30 amp BMS for these batteries, and then you can get any size amp hour battery you want, especially if you're going to try and put a nice big one here on the rear rack. We only used one extension cable off of this, but the kit does come with another. We will leave a link for some XT60 connectors so that you can utilize those to run your solder seals. We'll also leave a link for the solder seal connectors and the tools that I use to actually strip the wires, which come in super handy. You don't have to use them. I just like using them. It makes it that much faster. If you haven't already, please give us a like and subscribe. YouTube is our primary. Check out our Facebook page and E-Bikes of Tampa Bay, Florida Facebook group. If you're in the Tampa Bay area, check out E-Bikes of Tampa Bay, Florida. Get in there, make an event, go for a ride with your fellow e-bike friends. electricallwheel.com, Threads, Instagram, and TikTok. That's where we're at, and we run our shorts through our Facebook page as well. We really appreciate you checking out this video. This one took a little bit longer, and we're probably going to have to decide how we're going to label it, but we're very satisfied with how it turned out, and we're sure the next owner for this Velotric Discover is going to appreciate the option to add a second 48 volt battery. We'll talk to you next time.